I'm a Navy SEAL. Commander hit a female soldier during drill. 5 seconds later, she destroyed him. The strike landed with a sound that froze the entire drill field. Dozens of recruits stopped mid-motion. Dust hung in the scorching air. And the smallest soldier on the line, a woman no one had noticed before, stood there unmoving. 5 seconds later, the truth about who she really was began to reveal itself. The heat at Coronado base had a way of breaking people long before the instructors ever tried. It rose off the asphalt in quivering waves, turning the morning light into a haze that wrapped itself around the recruits like a test before the test. Sweat darkened uniforms. Throats were already dry. And yet, the drills hadn't even properly begun. 58 candidates stood in formation, men and women who believed they had the heart to chase the impossible. Bud/S, the path to becoming a Navy SEAL, didn't care what you believe. It cared only about truth. The kind that revealed itself when your lungs burned, when your arms shook, when your mind begged for mercy. Near the end of the formation stood the smallest candidate, barely noticeable at first glance. Candidate Maya Reyes, 27 years old, 5'3", quiet enough that some forgot she was there. Her brown hair was tucked neatly under her cover, her eyes steady on the horizon. Nothing about her screamed special. Nothing suggested danger. Commander Slate, known across the base as the Iron Wolf, walked the line with the cold confidence of a man who had shaped warriors for decades. But even he hadn't realized yet that the smallest person standing in front of him was the only one he should have feared. Maya Reyes didn't come here to be seen. She came here to disappear, into the work, into the discipline, into the part of herself she had been avoiding for years. Her father had been a SEAL. Her brothers, too. Heroes with folded flags and hospital scars. Men spoken about with pride and sorrow in the same breath. But Maya? She had been the quiet one. The one who fixed engines instead of breaking down barriers. The one who held the family together when grief nearly tore it apart. She never expected to wear a uniform like this, until the night she woke from a dream that felt like a calling, or maybe a dare. Slate had read her file, or at least the parts that weren't blacked out. There were gaps. Too many. Skills she shouldn't have had. Cores that looked impossible. And yet here she was, blending in, pretending to struggle when her muscles remembered far more than she let on. Slate didn't believe in mysteries. Mysteries meant you weren't in control. And for a man like him, control was sacred. He approached her with slow, deliberate steps, like a predator testing the air. Maya didn't move, didn't blink, didn't break. Slate noticed. And he didn't like it. The first drill was simple, sprints across the blistering asphalt. Straight lines, precise stops, quick transitions. The kind of movement that revealed hesitation, fear, and weakness. The kind Slate hunted for. Go! The recruits launched forward like fired rounds. Boots hammered the ground. Breath tore through lungs. Slate watched them all, scanning for mistakes. But his gaze always drifted back to Maya. She ran differently. Not faster. Not showier. Just efficient. No wasted motion. No panic. Her body moved like it had memorized a battlefield long before she set foot on this base. Slate narrowed his eyes. Again. 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 Each repetition broke someone. Knees buckled, stomachs heaved, one man collapsed entirely. But Maya? She reset after every sprint with quiet precision. Sweat dripped from her jawline. Her chest rose and fell steadily, almost rhythmically, like she'd trained in worse places, with worse stakes. Slate's jaw tightened. He hated it when people hid from him, because it meant they had something worth hiding. He stopped the drill abruptly. The recruits sagged with relief, hands on knees, chests heaving. Reyes, Slate called out, voice cutting across the courtyard like a blade. Every head turned. Maya straightened slowly. Yes, sir. The storm was coming. Everyone felt it. But Maya looked ready. Slate stepped toward her, boots echoing on the concrete, each step a warning. The recruits parted instinctively, giving room to the scene unfolding. They had seen Slate humiliate, break, and rebuild candidates, but this felt different. He was hunting something specific. He circled her like a man sizing up an opponent instead of a trainee. "You call that effort?" he snapped. "You're running like you're scared of your own shadow." Maya stayed still, eyes forward, breathing steady. Not disrespectful, not submissive, just calm. "Sir," she said softly, "I can go again if needed." Wrong answer. Slate moved closer. His face was inches from hers. His breath hot with anger, or maybe something deeper, a recognition he didn't want to accept. "You think being quiet makes you invisible?" he growled. "You think hiding whatever's in your file will help you here?" Her jaw tensed just barely. And Slate saw it. "There it is," he said, cold satisfaction coating his words. A crack. He raised his arm. Not a punch, but the kind of brutal correction instructors used decades ago before policies tightened. His hand struck her shoulder. A sharp, echoing crack. Gasps burst around the courtyard. Maya didn't move. Not an inch. She simply absorbed the hit and blinked once, slowly. Slate's face changed. And that was the first sign he had just made the biggest mistake of his career. 5 seconds passed. 5 seconds where no one breathed, no one shifted, no one dared speak. Dust floated between them like suspended time. Slate lowered his hand, suddenly aware of how silent everything had become. Maya's eyes met his. Not aggressively, not rebelliously, just honestly, almost like she had finally stopped pretending. Slate stepped back, not out of fear, but out of instinct. The instinct a man feels when he realizes the thing he struck wasn't prey. "Back in formation," he ordered, voice rougher than before. Maya didn't respond immediately. She studied him for 3 quiet seconds, long enough for a few recruits to glance between them nervously. Then she nodded once. "Yes, sir." She turned and walked back to her spot, posture perfect, step steady. The bruise forming under her uniform didn't slow her. The eyes staring at her didn't touch her. She simply returned to the line like nothing had happened. But everything had happened. The whispers began as soon as Slate stepped away. "What is she? Did she not feel it? She's not normal. No one stands after that." Slate heard them. He wanted to silence them. But deep down, even he didn't have an answer. And that terrified him. Drill continued, but the tone was different now. Every recruit stole glances at Maya, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Even the wind seemed quieter, as if the base itself waited for something else to break. Slate didn't call her out again, not yet. He watched her from the edge of the field, arms folded behind his back, jaw locked tight. His eyes weren't the cold predator eyes they'd been that morning. Now they were calculating, searching, trying to piece together a puzzle he didn't know how to solve. The instructors whispered among themselves. One of them, a senior petty officer with 20 years in the teams, muttered, "She took that like a combat vet." Another shook his head. "No, not even vets take hits like that." Maya ignored all of it. She moved through each drill like someone walking familiar ground. Her motions were disciplined but soft, like she was still holding back. Her muscles stayed loose. Her breathing never spiked. She didn't try to impress anyone. And that's what unsettled Slate most. Someone pretending to be strong was predictable. Someone pretending to be weak was dangerous. He needed to know which one she was. By noon, he had made his decision. He was going to break her, or reveal her. Whatever came first. The noonday sun burned through the marine layer, turning the sand pits into shimmering beds of heat. Slate gathered the recruits around the obstacle course, the most brutal part of the morning. Normally he gave a short speech. Today he didn't bother. His focus locked on one person. "Reyes," he barked. "Front." She stepped forward without hesitation. The recruits watched with a strange mix of curiosity and fear. Slate gestured to the towering wooden cargo net, the unstable log walls, the rope climb swaying slightly in the wind. "You're going first," he said. You set the pace. A murmur rippled through the candidates. The first runner always failed. It was designed that way. Slick ropes, uneven grip, sand thrown secretly by instructors onto the logs. Maya simply nodded. When the whistle blew, she sprinted forward with a calm that didn't match the chaos of the course. Sand flew beneath her boots. Her hands gripped the cargo net with invisible precision. She didn't rush, but she didn't hesitate. Her body moved with fluid certainty, as if each obstacle wasn't a threat, but a memory. Halfway through, she slipped deliberately, just enough to convince spectators she wasn't extraordinary. But Slate caught the lie. Because no one caught themselves mid-air with reflexes that fast, unless they were trained far beyond this place. And his suspicion grew darker. When she finished the course, first, effortlessly, the courtyard erupted in whispers. Some recruits looked inspired. Others looked intimidated. One or two looked like they wanted to quit right then. Slate didn't speak. He didn't even move. He just stared at her like he was looking through her. Maya met his gaze briefly, then looked away. It wasn't disrespect, it was restraint. She didn't want to challenge him. She just wanted to be left alone. But Slate couldn't let it go. He called out, "Reyes. With me." The recruits froze. Slate led her behind the equipment shed, away from curious eyes. Maya followed, posture straight, hands relaxed at her sides. She didn't tense, not even when Slate turned sharply and faced her. "What are you hiding?" he demanded. Her expression didn't change. "Sir, I'm not hiding anything. Your file is redacted. Your reflexes are years ahead of these candidates. And you took a hit that would have dropped half the instructors on this base." Silence settled between them. Maya looked down at her hands, steady, quiet hands that had once done things she tried hard to forget. "Sir, I'm just here to train. Don't lie to me." Her jaw shifted. A tiny, trembling breath escaped. "Sir, if I tell you the truth, you won't let me stay." Slate took a slow step back. Because people only said things like that when the truth had weight. Dangerous weight. Slate didn't push further, not yet. He saw something in her eyes he hadn't seen all morning. Not fear. Not defiance. Grief. It flickered so briefly he almost doubted it, but he'd been in war long enough to recognize the look of someone carrying ghosts. "Get back to the group," he said quietly. Her shoulders dipped, barely, but enough to show she wasn't relieved. She was disappointed. She wanted to tell him. Maybe she wanted someone to understand. But she simply nodded and walked away. Slate stood there long after she left, heartbeat heavy. He hated mysteries, but he hated broken soldiers even more. And Maya wasn't broken. She was holding herself together with something stronger than discipline. Back with the recruits, drills resumed. Maya moved with the same quiet grace, but now Slate watched for details he had missed before. A flinch when someone dropped a rifle. A tightening of her jaw at the sound of a helicopter passing overhead. Her fingers tapping a rhythm only special operators learned during covert signals training. None of these were things rookies did. Slate's chest tightened. She wasn't hiding because she was weak. She was hiding because she was dangerous. And something deep inside him whispered, "She's not here to join them. She's here to outrun something." Late afternoon brought the ocean drills. Cold surf, rolling waves, the kind that drained hope straight from a person's spine. The candidates formed teams, lifting inflatable boats over their heads. Sand stuck to their skin. Salt stung their eyes. Slate scanned the teams and smirked when he saw where Maya had ended up, with the weakest group, 4 men already exhausted, 1 woman trembling. "Perfect. Team 4, Slate shouted. "Front of the line." Maya adjusted her grip under the heavy boat. Her teammates struggled to lift it. One man's arms shook violently. Slate watched her carefully, waiting for her to take over, to show the strength he knew she was hiding. But Maya didn't. Instead, she shifted her stance and whispered, "Breathe with me. On my count. 1, 2, lift." Her voice steadied them. Their breathing synced. The boat rose. Not because she carried it, but because she taught them how to carry it together. Slate felt something shift in the air. She wasn't showing dominance. She was showing leadership. Real leadership. The kind that couldn't be taught. The kind that came from surviving things that changed you. As the team jogged toward the waves, steadier now, Slate whispered to himself. Who trained you, Reyes? Because suddenly, breaking her didn't feel like the mission anymore. Understanding her did. The following week arrived like a storm waiting to break. The training yard buzzed with an uneasy tension. Everyone could feel something shifting. The instructors whispered among themselves. Recruits avoided eye contact with Kira as if she were a grenade with the pin halfway out. Kira stood at parade rest, jaw locked, expression unreadable. Colonel Graves approached the platoon with deliberate, almost theatrical steps. Today, he announced, voice slicing through the cold morning air, we separate the soldiers from the pretenders. He turned to Kira. Lieutenant Ashford. Step forward. Mila swallowed hard. Isaac muttered under his breath. Even the air seemed to stop moving. Kira stepped out. Yes, sir. Graves' lips curled, amused by her calm. You've been hiding behind mediocrity. But today, you don't have that option anymore. He nodded at an instructor. Bring it. A metal case was carried forward. Inside it, weighted cuffs, ankle restraints, and a resistance harness used only for elite-level testing. Tests even regular officers rarely passed. Mila whispered, she's not ready. But Isaac shook his head slowly. No, this is exactly what he wants. Graves' eyes glittered. You will run the gauntlet. Full course. Full weight. No breaks. He leaned close, voice soft but venomous. And when you fail, you're out. Kira stared down at the restraints. Her hands trembled. Not from fear. From something deeper. Something breaking free. She nodded once. I'll complete it. A ripple of disbelief swept through the recruit. Graves smirked. Oh, I'm counting on it. The whistle blew, and the world exploded into motion. Kira surged forward, only to be snapped back violently by the restraints. The weights dragged at her limbs like anchors. Every step was a battle. Every breath burned. Mud. Barbed wire. Ice water pits. Climbing walls slick with freezing condensation. Recruits whispered as she passed. No way she can do this. She's going to collapse. Why isn't she quitting? Kira's vision blurred. Her legs shook. Her lungs screamed for air. She stumbled. Fell. Hit the ground so hard the world rang. Colonel Graves folded his arms. Pathetic. Mila took a step forward instinctively, but Isaac grabbed her sleeve. Don't, he murmured. Look at her. She's not done. Kira pushed her palms into the mud. Her arms quivered. Her voice broke in a whisper meant only for herself. You're stronger than this. Get up. She rose. One tortured inch at a time. And then she moved again. Slowly. Painfully. Unstoppably. The platoon went silent. One by one heads turned. Eyes widened. Because Kira wasn't just enduring. She was transforming. By the midpoint of the gauntlet, her body was failing. Muscles spasmed. Blood trickled down her arm. The restraints had cut into her skin. Kira reached the rope climb, the final impossible task. Waited. Exhausted. Already beyond her limit. Graves leaned in, voice dripping triumph. This is where you quit. Kira stood beneath the rope, staring up at the impossible height. Her hands tightened. Her breathing slowed. And then something clicked. A memory. Her father's voice. Strength isn't about looking powerful, Kira. It's about choosing to rise when everything around you tells you to stay down. She closed her eyes and grabbed the rope. Her body screamed. Her arms shook violently. But she climbed. Every pull was agony. Every inch felt like a mile. But she climbed. Halfway up, her grip slipped. No, 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 Mila gasped. But Kira caught herself. A surge of raw determination erupted through her veins. And with a final, primal cry, she touched the top. Graves' smirk vanished. The platoon stared in stunned silence. Kira had done the impossible. When Kira dropped back down, barely able to stand, the yard stayed silent. Colonel Graves approached her slowly. But this time, he did not look amused. He looked rattled. Threatened. He leaned in. "You think this changes anything?" Kira didn't speak. Didn't argue. Didn't defend herself. She simply stood there, broken, bleeding, shaking, and still standing. Graves stepped even closer. "You will not embarrass me in my own command. Do you understand?" Her eyes lifted, finally meeting his. And for the first time, he looked away. Isaac whispered, "Oh, he's afraid of her." Graves barked orders and stormed off, fury barely contained. Mila rushed to Kira's side. "Why didn't you stop? You could have killed yourself." Kira gave a tired, crooked smile. "Because I'm done being who they expect me to be." That evening, Kira was ordered to the colonel's office. Most recruits thought it meant disciplinary action. But Kira knew otherwise. She entered the office. Graves paced behind his desk like a cornered animal. "You've made a mockery of my program." She didn't react. "You're hiding something," he snapped. "No ordinary officer does what you did today. Who trained you? Who are you really?" Kira's eyes didn't waver. "I'm exactly what my record says I am, sir." Graves slammed his palm onto the desk. "You're lying." Security alarms suddenly blared in the hallway. Graves froze. An automated voice echoed. "Unauthorized access attempt detected. Clearance Alpha level file breach." Graves' face drained of color. Kira just stood there, composed, silent, because she already knew what was happening. Her file, the one she had spent years trying to bury, was no longer hidden. Someone somewhere had found it, and everything was about to collide. Graves looked at her, truly terrified now. "What are you?" he whispered. Kira stepped forward, and for the first time, she didn't hide. "I'm the thing you never saw coming." The camera pulls back. Lights flash through the windows as security officers run down the hallway. Kira turns away from Graves and walks out of the office with slow, controlled step. Each door she passes flickers with emergency lights. Each recruit she walks by stares at her in awe. Mila and Isaac rush to her side. "What's happening?" Mila asks. Kira exhales. Her eyes are calm, resolute. "Everything," she says. "Everything I tried to escape is coming back." The three of them stand in the center of the hallway as alarms echo and boots thunder. The camera slowly zooms in on Kira's face, covered in sweat, still smeared with dried blood. But her eyes burn with a fire no one can ignore anymore. She whispers, not in fear, but in acceptance. "It's time they see who I really am." A single line appears. "Some secrets are not weaknesses. Some secrets are warnings."